Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a stack of sources today about the Gaza-Israel conflict.
Yeah.
You've shared material from news orgs, a human rights group, think tanks, even some historical background.
That's right.
And our mission really is just to pull out the key information, the different perspectives presented only in these sources,
Exactly, just what's in the material.
to help you get maybe a clearer handle on what is, let's face it, an incredibly complex situation.
Absolutely. And, looking at this collection, what immediately stands out is, well, the sheer depth of history involved. Sources like Wikipedia lay out this timeline stretching back decades. It shows this isn't just a recent thing.
Not at all.
It's a conflict marked by so many events. We see terms like the First and Second Intifada, that's Arabic for shaking off.
Right. Periods of intense Palestinian uprisings.
Exactly. And specific military operations, too, like Cast Lead back in 08-09. Each phase, according to the historical data here, brought, well, significant casualties and destruction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And bringing that long history right up to the devastating present, the sources really highlight how recent events, especially since October 2023, have led to just an exceptionally high death toll.
Yeah, much higher than many previous periods.
The BBC source mentions how life has just been drastically altered by this latest phase.
Altered is. Yeah, it's a stark understatement when you look at the human experience documented in, say, the Human Rights Watch source. That one really brings the impact home through personal accounts. It's quite powerful.
It really is.
We hear from someone like Ghassan describing the absolute chaos of getting evacuation leaflets.
Only to face bombed streets.
Yeah, and losing contact with family. Just unimaginable.
His description, feeling like his soul is being torn out while riding a donkey cart, desperate for safety because there are no cars. That's a detail from the source that really sticks with you.
It does. And there's another account from Sarah. She talks about witnessing what she calls a massacre after a bombing.
Seeing bodies, the effect on her children.
Just profound trauma. And importantly, the HRW source connects these experiences directly to the legal framework.
Okay, so
It points out that under the laws of armed conflict, the international rules for war displacing civilians is only lawful if certain conditions are met.
conditions like ensuring safety, family unity, access to essentials.
Exactly, and the ability to return. Their research suggests the displacement has been so widespread and systematic.
Which, they argue, could constitute
Crimes against humanity. Yeah, that's their argument based on their findings. A grave breach of international law, often involving widespread or systematic attacks against civilians.
which raises huge questions about intent and accountability based purely on what that source presents.
Definitely.
Now, shifting gears a bit to the political landscape, the Friedrich Naumann Foundation analysis offers a perspective on Israeli thinking after October 7th.
Right. It notes how that attack really shattered previous security ideas.
Fueled a sense of existential threat, it seems.
Yes, and that analysis highlights a central tension. Israel's main war goals, destroying Hamas and getting the hostages back, are, well, inherently difficult to pursue at the same time.
It's a painful dilemma laid out in that source.
Yeah, the source points out that deals to free hostages might, let Hamas survive in some form, while more military pressure could put the hostages in greater danger.
And the analysis suggests this could really strain Israeli national unity over time.
It could. It also notes there's no clear consensus on who should govern Gaza if Hamas is removed. Lots of ideas mentioned.
Like restoring the Palestinian Authority, or maybe Israeli security control, or even an international force.
All mentioned. And it notes declarations from some about reestablishing settlements or a second Nakba.
That term for the 1948 displacement of Palestinians.
Yes, though it also cites Netanyahu as reportedly clarifying against resettlement plans.
Okay.
The same analysis also touches on the international angle. It argues that while Western support is there, excessive criticism, even if meant to uphold international law, could potentially backfire.
How so, according to their theory?
The idea presented is that demonization might push Israel towards insisting on complete security control, which could hinder future diplomacy. It talks about the challenge of defining red lines when fighting an enemy embedded in civilian areas.
Meanwhile, the Council on Foreign Relations source details diplomatic efforts by Arab states.
Right, it describes a summit in Egypt. Leaders there issued a declaration supporting Palestinians, but also addressing some Israeli and U.S. concerns.
Notably, they explicitly rejected those displacement plans mentioned elsewhere.
Yes. Proposals to relocate Gazans to Egypt or Jordan. They renewed their offer of normalization with Israel.
But, And this is key in the source.
Strictly conditioned on implementing a two-state solution. That framework for an independent Palestinian state alongside Israel.
Based on land for peace withdrawing from territories occupied in 67.
That's the principle cited. The CFR source frames this as a collective strategic choice for peace by these Arab leaders. Yeah, however, it also notes that both the Israeli and U.S. governments pretty promptly rejected that specific declaration.
Underscoring the point made in the source that any path forward needs peace partners on all sides.
Absolutely. So, bringing these strands together, the deep history, the devastating human impact we read about, the internal political tensions in Israel, the complex diplomacy, it gives you a multi-layered picture just from these sources alone.
So what does this all mean for you, looking at this information? We've seen the history providing context, the human stories revealing the immense cost,
We've seen the Israeli analysis pointing to difficult trade-offs and internal debates.
and the Arab states outlining their conditions for peace, which, according to the source, were met with rejection. Given this blend of history, human reality, and political positions from these sources, here's something worth considering. How do these deeply conflicting narratives and stated goals, as presented in this material we've looked at, potentially limit or perhaps open up pathways for future resolution or continued conflict? That's really the question the stack of sources leaves us with.